All right. So, not sure why it had, I guess I just messed up the days and times, but we are actually going live at 3 p.m., which was my plan for this upcoming live stream. But for some reason, well, here we are at now 3 p.m., but it was saying like there was still 8 hours to go on the live stream or something like that. Well, that's not true. So anyways, hopefully we don't lose too many people who wanted to join in for this. Sorry if there was a confusion on the time there. We are going to, of course, get ourselves started right this moment. I'm just going to start inviting everybody from the Discord. And let's also go ahead and just get the event started, even though weird. Oh well. So anyways, thank you for joining me on this afternoon live stream. Next week is the big week where we are going to be giving away that beginner Yozan flute, which I do not have. So let me grab that as well. So we have our beginner Yozan flute, which is right here. Looking wonderful as always. I've got my humidifier going as well, as it's starting to get cold here. So I thought that we would start out this live stream with a little bit of how it's the best way to take care of your instruments. Let me also share this over to this place too. Okay. Let me share that, and then we'll... Actually, this is kind of cool that we're at number 17 now. I just realized that. Share it to a page. And then, okay, we're good to go. All right. So, what's the best way to take care of your shakuhachi during the winter times? So, the most important thing to know, and this is what I've been told by a variety of makers and so on, is that it's not necessarily that what the temperature is. It's more important about like what's the humidity like. That's what the bigger effect is on your shakuhachi. So if the humidity drops below 50%, that's where you should have some concerns on just it cracking. The best thing, as always, as I've recommended on many videos prior to, is that you keep your shakuhachi in a plastic bag, and then you blow hot air into that plastic bag, and then put the shakuhachi in, seal it, and there you have it. That is the best way to take care of them during the winter times. The other thing too is, having like a little humidifier unit like this would also be very helpful as well. I think that would be the best way right now to take care of your flutes. Some people do talk about oiling flutes. Oiling is not necessary for flutes, but if you're going to oil, one of the things that I've been recommending to my students is boiled linseed oil. And so I'll write that in the chat as well for future listeners as well. Linseed oil. So boiled linseed oil is really the best product for taking care of your shakuhachi and making sure that it doesn't crack or have any issues like this. Now, as you probably noticed as well, today we also are not having our in-house producer. Our in-house producer is a professional Santa during this time of the year, so he is very, very busy at the moment, as you can imagine, being Santa Claus. Welcome in, Gabriel Alford. Welcome in, and cheers if you're drinking some coffee or tea or any other beverage. Usually I choose this time for my European audience because it's a little bit easier for them to get access to this time. I think it's like, what, 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning there? But at any rate, I also want to give a little shout out to William for joining the Chuden Level series. And as we normally start this, I would like to start with our advertisement portion first. So, of course, on this YouTube channel, we don't just do live streams, we don't just do performance videos, like the one that came out this morning, Japan time 12 a.m. with Sakaguchi Yozan Sensei. We also offer courses through our membership. So if you hit that membership the join button, you can join the membership and you'll have a chance to win this Yozan flute. If you join the first level, you get 1 ticket, the second level 2 tickets, the third level 5 tickets, and the fourth level 10 tickets. Many of you have heard this announcement so many times, I apologize for the repetition, but you never know when new people come, and many people have been joining. New people have been joining, as you can see even in this live stream. We have our new member William who's here, who are very grateful for joining that Chuden Level series. I hope you enjoy it, and hey, you might even win this new bamboo flute. So I'll use this flute today for all the examples for questions that we have. I do have a couple that are lined up. So this will be our flute today for giving examples. And they're very well made for, a lot of people. I think like even the idea of them calling them beginner flutes. I say this a lot on the live streams, but I feel like that's a it really doesn't do a good service to the flutes because they're way better than that. All right, let's go to our questions. Okay, and here we go. All right. Okay, what are the differences between the shakuhachi and other bamboo flutes, such as the Chinese dizi or the Western concert flute? Well, Western concert flute is not a bamboo flute, but I understand the question. So something like, maybe even like the shinobue, for example. So the dizi has more holes than the shakuhachi does. That's the first thing. The Aperture, though it does look similar, like in the way they play vertically, the actual utaguchi cut, their blowing edge is much different. Welcome in, Banana Man. I know you love the concert flute. And so they'll have a lot more holes, and they're usually their tuning is also different than ours as well. Things like the shinobue also has more holes, and it's kind of like they're tuned almost like an A minor scale if you're talking like in the more of the modern flute, the modern one of that. The Hayashi Uta ones are different. They have a different little tuning, and I'm not an expert on shinobue, and I don't know that much about it, other than the fact that I have a couple, and I have a couple beginner books about shinobue that I've gone through and played a few things just for fun. But the only other, is there any other flute that is kind of similar to the shakuhachi in terms of its construction and so on? The only thing I can really think of is the hitoyogiri. But other than that, all the other instruments are quite different. But the key differences is going to be tuning and the amount of holes that the shakuhachi has. So it's a very good question. Okay, next question. How did the shakuhachi evolve from its origins as a Buddhist monk instrument to its use of a traditional and contemporary music? Well, I don't know that I would call it a Buddhist monk's instrument necessarily, but I kind of get the question. Like, how did it get from like the komuso flute all the way to the where it is today? Well, I think that a big part of it is actually thanks to the Kinkos, popularizing it and teaching it to the public, and then from there it just exploded out. So you have the Kinkos teaching all these people, public people who are not a part of the like aristocratic class or a samurai, and it just gets spread. It becomes more popular, and people just pick it up from there and there. I still wouldn't say that it's like it's not a very popular instrument, mainly because of its difficulty, but it does seem to kind of go in these up and down trends, and I feel like I'm a little bit more hopeful. It's on the uptrend in my estimation. Okay. Here's another question here. What are the traditional uses of the shakuhachi in Japanese culture, and how has its role in music changed over time? So primarily the shakuhachi was a solo instrument, but in the Meiji era and onwards, it adapted a new role of being played into sankyoku music, and which is ensemble stuff. So you would have shakuhachi, koto, and shamisen. It was also used, or is used still, for accompanying shigin, so people who are singing the tanka or the waka poems, the Japanese poems, and they are usually accompanied by shakuhachi, or they can be, I should say. So the traditional use is basically solo, and the more modern use is in the ensembles, like the sankyoku stuff, And more specifically, there became a lot of pieces that were Shakuhachi Koto duets. And of course, now we have Shakuhachi ensemble pieces, concerto, and so on and so forth. Okay. Welcome in, Herbert. Welcome in, and oh yeah, Banana Man, of course. All right. How does bending or pitch bending work on the shakuhachi, and how is it used in traditional music? So, the bending on the flute, right? There's a couple ways that we can do it. We can go by like the head movement, or we can go by shading the holes. So then. Then you get stuff like that, right? We'll get the little opening of the Rhapsody in Blue. And so on and so forth. I think it's an A flat. Might be a G. But anyways, that's how it's used. Is either you're going to do it with the whole shading, or you're going to do it with the head movement. So an example of each one is something like a nyashi, right? A nyashi would be a head movement down, and then a return back to that position. So that would be an example of how we use the head movement to affect the pitch in the traditional way. Also like a suriage, which is a type of slide. There we would use, let's say we're going to go to re to roll, this G to D. Something like that. That G to D there, that sliding of the finger, is another example of how we would use pitch bendings as well. All right, so very good questions. And if you have more questions in the in the live chat, we'll also take those as well. Take a sip of coffee before we move on to the next one. Okay. All right. How do microtones contribute to the expression and unique sound of the shakuhachi? Okay, so this is going to be a question that's a little bit more nuanced, because as far as like scales go in certain pitches, and what scale, what pitch, what modality were people using at certain times changes. So shakuhachi players weren't always using this modern Miyako-bushi scale, the one that goes like this. So that kind of scale wasn't used until in the Edo era, like middle of the Edo period. Prior to that, people were using something closer to the Ritsu scale. And in there, you wouldn't necessarily get as many like microtonalities as we would in, say, like the Miyako-bushi scale, because that second note and that the sixth note, the E flat, when you're going in like the descending part of that scale, are typically lower than what our Western pitch would denote. And basically, the answer of why this is, right, why this has or why these notes exist or whatever, is because of what they call tendency tones or centripetal force. So you have these notes that have stronger gravitational pulls to them, and so it brings the other notes closer to them. So it's sumeri, because it has its centripetal force note is roll. The sumeri is being brought down to roll. U, its centripetal force note is re, so the U is being pulled down to that note. So that's why the microtones are like that, and it does have like this sort of sadder than sad sort of feeling, right? It's very melancholy. SYD asks, hi Sean, do you have the scale charts of shakuhachi available? I do not, but I will make that for everybody. I will make, I need to put that as a note. So Sean needs to make scale charts of the Miyako-bushi scale and the modes, and we'll make those for download free on SeanHeadMusic.com. Okay, so I made a note for that, and I will generate that for you as soon as I can. Banana Man says also like a leading tone. Yeah, so let's give an example of this in Western classical music, because Western classical music also utilizes microtones, even though they don't think they do. They absolutely have microtones. So for example, let's say we're playing in the key of F. And you want to play this. That B flat is never, unless you're on a piano, is never a perfect B flat. Because it loses this sense of like wanting to be pulled down. It has such a strong force. Or that B wants to come up, right? It has a lot of, the C, it has a lot of gravitational pull, just like the G has a lot of gravitational pull in C major. So those notes, you know, they kind of pull at each other, as it were. F is probably one of the strongest note, that fourth note, and wanting it to just really descend all the way down to E, and then E wants to go to D, and then D wants to go to C. So yeah, good. It's a good comparison to think of it almost like a leading tone. In other cases too, like the classical shakuhachi, the U would be more considered as like a blue note. It has a note for color, not necessarily a note for tendency, but it ends up having that effect. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, what role does embouchure play in shaping the shakuhachi's tone? Well, a tighter embouchure tends to have a tighter tone, and then vice versa. But you have to have some sort of positive tension in it. You can't just have like, you know, you can't just go completely numb in the face. You won't make a sound. These past couple of days I've been playing a lot, especially like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because of, well, the duets that I was doing with Yozan Sensei, and of course a lot of the teaching and all the extra stuff that I've been doing. And so even today I'm a little bit tense, and so that my tone is also being affected by that. So I can kind of feel like it's very easy for me to go over tighten right now and kind of go into that con register instead of sustaining it like something like that. But like I can feel the tension in the face as well. So today is one of those days for me that like the embouchure is actually really affecting the shakuhachi tone. And whatever. But so if you're really tight, you're gonna have a pretty tight sound. If you're loose, you're gonna have a more of like a flubby sort of sound. I mean, that's pretty obvious in it, but also like offshooting a lot to the side of the face too, like you know, that's also going to like change the tonal quality of the flute. It will thin up the sound, so having yourself more centered, right? You can even hear that difference. And of course that's like a really massive change because I'm really exaggerating it so you can hear the difference of it. Banana Man has a question in the comments here. I have a question. When I play Otsu no Ro, it never really comes out. Is that an issue of my embouchure or aperture? I actually really prefer the word aperture because our embouchure is actually a moving apparatus, right? It changes as we play. It could be. It could be. So a lot of times when people are playing, when they get to that note, it has like this. It's very interesting. Ro is almost like you're kind of putting your fingers underneath the table and you're kind of pulling up on the table. You kind of have to hit inside and just push against the flute a little bit, but you don't want to force the air out either. So having a really nice concrete Ro in the lower register takes a little bit of finessing to get. If it's not sounding at all, it could be like, let's say for example you have all these sounds are going really nice, right? And then nothing happens there. There could be a flute issue. So I would have to see the flute and see what the problem is. But typically, it's probably, you might be a little bit too tight, or the airflow might just be offset and not hitting the exact sweet spot that needs to happen to get this flute to resonate the way that you want it to. Blah, blah, blah says, really like the sound of that shakuhachi. Is it new? It's like, no, this is the shakuhachi that we're giving away on this channel. So if you join the membership, there's a couple levels there. You get entered into an automatic raffle to win this flute. If you do the first level, you get 1 ticket. Second level's 2 tickets. Third level's 5 tickets, and the fourth level is 10 tickets. So blah blah blah. You should definitely sign up for the membership and get your chance to win a brand new Yozan Shakuhachi. Banana Man continues, I would like to preface that I usually have a relaxed embouchure with a mix of slow, warm air. So, okay, so you are approaching it, like that's what we want to do with shakuhachi. One thing I might recommend, just to see if this helps or not, is start the sound with an actual, like a very wide open mouth and kind of going, ah, ooh, and then slowly let the air out, like. And see if that helps and you can get that sound. And see if you can get that going. Okay? I hope that was helpful. All right. What are some methods for achieving the fingering that allows for smooth transitions between notes and maintain tonal quality? So an interesting thing about this is if you don't actually lift the finger up high enough off the flute, the pitch actually won't be correct. So listen to the difference between this. Because there's air coming out of this hole, when you block this hole with the finger, if you don't lift up enough, it lowers the pitch. So one thing I would say is make sure you are lifting the finger up high enough. Now you don't need to extend it like this, right? But just enough, maybe like 2 inches away from the hole, so that way you're not affecting the airflow out of it, so you're not affecting the pitch. And this will in turn also improve the tone. So a nice little exercise would just to do something like something like that, right? Just doing actions like that between all of the notes would be something that would be really helpful. So I hope that helps as well. Okay, some questions on contemporary techniques. Ooh. How is shakuhachi playing adapted to the contemporary styles such as jazz or experimental music? Well, much like a lot of other instruments, performers are experimenting with sounds and they come up with new things. So they figure out like, oh, hey, with this fingering combination, I can actually get multiple notes at the same time. It's actually harder to do that on the flute you're not used to. So, but anyways, you get the idea. Or you have something like John Kaizan Neptune's piece where he has the prime numbers where he goes whatever the notes he sings are. Something like that, right? So you can sing and play, play in the finger holes instead. Sing and play and go. And stuff like that, and people will constantly push the envelope of the instrument to coming up with new ways to play it, new techniques, and so on and so forth. So just like any other instrument, honestly. Okay. Okay, can you describe how those techniques are applied into modern music? So, well, I gave an example of like prime numbers, for example, that piece with the singing and playing and also playing into the finger holes. That's one example of it. You might get something like a piece that I commissioned by a composer, Stephen Yip. He utilizes this technique. And so that I use in that piece. I call it the dragon's roar, not because my goggle or my pseudonym is Tairu, but because that's actually what it sounds like to me. And actually, when I commissioned that piece, my goggle was the old goggle, the old pseudonym, which was Renzo, no longer using that. But that would be another example. And in that particular piece, it's called Episodes of Renga. I'll pull that up as a Episodes of Renga by Stephen Yip. It's also on my CD called 2020 Bamboo, so you can hear it there. I did it with singer Frances Fenton. She's a beautiful soprano voice, and so we did that piece, and we did it live in Houston, and so that's on the CD, the live version of it. And so you can hear some other extended techniques as well. Okay. Great questions today. All right. Let's go ahead and move over to the Discord and see if there's a few other questions here that I missed, because I think there was one on here. If I look at the threads, there it is. So this is a question from Robert. I love the ending of this. When your tone becomes tight, how do you untighten? What is the proper attire to wear when performing? Please and thank you, Big Dragon. Just the ending makes me just chuckle. Okay. So, I'll give you one technique called the pufferfish exercise. So what you do is you just go to and play the re. And then what you do is you pull out the cheeks just by letting all the air fill up the cheeks. And then basically this will help just keep everything a little bit more loose, and then you can kind of pull it back in. And that helps untighten the sound a little bit. Proper attire to wear when performing. Samues are great. T-shirt and jeans, suit, kimono. Kind of depends on whatever you like. Whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. Really good question, though. Thank you very much for that, Robert. SYD. I've got a question about holes on the shakuhachi. So apparently there are some instances that some shakuhachi are being bore a new holes to be 7 holes. Does this mean the 5th hole may not be able to do, or the 5-hole shakuhachi may not be able to do the 7 shakuhachi can? Yes, there are a couple things that the 7-hole shakuhachi can do that the 5-hole cannot do. The main feature is that the 5-hole shakuhachi does not have the F natural in the daikon register. So we'll have it here, we'll have it here, and then it's gone. It goes to F sharp. However, I'll give you a little cheat trick on this. So what you can do is, if you're sitting, you can put your leg up, get some flesh, put the bell end against the leg, and then you can get the F natural. So we do have a cheat way. You do have to expose some skin on stage, but you can definitely play the F natural if you would like to. I've never done that on stage, nor do I plan to do that on stage, but it is a way that you can get that F natural if you're just so desperately needing it. Might be a good way to do it in a studio setting if you don't have a 1.6 on you or something like that. But that would be one thing that a 7-hole flute can do that a 5-hole flute cannot. Another thing, they're going to have a lot more balanced tone between like the tsumeri and ro. We have that note, but I think it's it's still brighter than what they can get by just lifting up that pinky. So the balance of the tones and the pitches over the flute. Let's see, what other things they can do? Of course, they're going to be able to maneuver across the instrument more with more agility and dexterity than we're going to be able to do. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the extent of it. We can do Oh, they have more multiphonics than we do, right? So if you want those more extended techniques of that kind of stuff where we go, um, all those different jazzy things, those they have a lot more of them. Banana Man says, that's funny. Reminds me of playing an oboe and squeezing your legs against the holes to get the low C to come out. Yes, it's very much like that. Yeah, so, but SYD, another really great question. Me personally, it's not that I'm like anti 7-hole flute, but I am kind of anti 7-hole flute. It's just that I don't think that, like, when you play the 7-hole flute, I feel like you lose so many like beautiful things about the shakuhachi. Like you lose its essence, which is the idea of being able to play kari and meri. So you have all these bright tones, and then you have the dark tones. Right? And then you get the sense of here's dark and here's light. And it makes it a really nice, like, Taoist instrument, you know, this yin-yang. It's very, very beautiful. And, I mean, look, the name of the Fuke school, Myo Anji, is literally the temple of light and dark. So kind of want to keep that element in there. SYD replies to that saying, me too, actually. I prefer the 5th holes due to its authenticity. I just like the sound of it more. I think the sound of it, when you're required to use those different hole shadings and stuff, I just think it sounds better. Okay, questions about tone and sound production. So how can I produce a clear and resonant tone on the shakuhachi, especially in the higher registers? Okay, this is a good question, and this could be like, you know, a 30-minute video and so on and so forth. I'm going to give you 2 tips for it because there's a bunch of things that we could do. The first thing I'm going to say is don't forget to always practice your roll buki. And roll buki doesn't just mean here as loud as you can, right? Play it soft. Play it airy. Play it in kan. And play daikon. And give different styles of that roll buki, right? In a variety of different ways of playing it. This will help a lot with developing your tone overall throughout the instrument. Now, there's this amazing video by Robert Dick. Robert Dick is honestly flute legend. If you don't know who he is, you got to go look him up. He wrote a book called The Other Flute, and his way he looks at flute and the possibilities of the flute are just incredible, and it's really inspiring. So going back to some of those questions about pushing the instrument into the onto the modern envelope or into a modern style, that's somebody who does this like to the umph degree. Okay, so he has this exercise called the throat tuning, and so what you do is whatever scale or whatever piece you're playing, you play it along with singing it. So you have this row, for example, and then you'd sing along with that. And whatever the piece you're playing, for example, let's say if you start with like Hon Shirabe, you'd get something like and then this will help with your tone as well. So this is a really, really great exercise for those who are wanting to improve their playing tone-wise for shakuhachi. Okay, great question. All right. What should I do if my shakuhachi sound is airy or weak? How can I improve my breath control? I don't know if this is necessarily a breath control issue as much as this is just where the air is hitting. Another thing that it could possibly be as well is tongue placement. Tongue placement is tongue placement is a consistent issue among my students and new students who come into the studio. There's a video on this in the Chuden series, so I won't go over it too much on tongue position. But one thing that I would say is make sure that you do engage the bottom of the core of your stomach. It's called the tanden. It's the place right below your belly button. You want to almost like push the bottom of your belly out when you play. And that will help with that kind of feeling of pushing the belly out will help with your tone. All right, smooth transitions between the first and second octave. Yeah, we've done that a couple times. We've done the soft and loud stuff. There's videos for that as well. All right. Sorry, I was looking through some of the questions right now that we've had in the past that I'm looking at as well that might be good for answering. If you have any questions right now, please feel free to drop them into the chat. We're also giving away this flute next week, so if you join up for the membership, the first level is 1 ticket, second level is 2 tickets, third level is 5 tickets, and the fourth level is 10 tickets for the raffle. ChatGPT chooses the winner, so join the membership today and have a chance to win this flute next week. Subtones. I don't think we have subtones on the shakuhachi. I don't know what that is. Okay, repertoire and practice. How should I approach practice? Man, I can really not speak well today. Herbert says, I had a very pleasant masterclass with tons of great advice on Saturday. Well, I'm really glad that you were able to go and hang out there. I heard it was very good as well. Okay, how do I approach practicing traditional honkyoku pieces to ensure both precision and expression? Well, I don't know, you should tell me. The thing with honkyoku music is that a lot of the really old scores don't have any, they don't have much information at all besides just a list of notes, right? So precision, I don't think precision is key here in terms of like, this is the way the piece needs or must be played, but rather, okay, I get this question a lot, okay, and I'll kind of approach this in a little bit of a different way, because I don't think that the way that we're thinking about interpretation of this music is, I think some people get too hung up on what is correct, like what is right, okay, and let's just take our good old friend here, Honshirabe, and we'll take a look at this, okay? Now, tell me which way is right for the first 2 notes of the piece. Okay, so which way is correct? And the answer is yes. All of them are correct. Now, traditionally, right, the kind of the standard way that you hear it is kind of like a quick tsu to a re. But it doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. And so I suppose the practicing the traditional honkyoku pieces to ensure both precision and expression. Well, precision, you play it how your teacher tells you to do it. In expression, you explore the possible sonic possibilities that you could use to express what you want to say. So, yeah, so I think blah, 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 you spoke too soon. I thought the way your teacher taught you is correct. Yes, it is correct. But you don't want to just play like you don't want to be a copy. You don't want to be a robot, right? You don't want to be, I love this quote by Ravel when Gershwin was asking him for lessons, and Ravel would be like, "Look, why do you want to be a second-rate Ravel when you could be a first-rate Gershwin?" Like, I think that has everything to do with it right there. Like, look, Ravel, gorgeous harmonies, don't get me wrong. Beautiful, beautiful writing, beautiful melodic content, such a masterful orchestrator. But Gershwin, come on, it's Gershwin. Unbelievable melodies and rhythm and great music. So, why would you want to be like your teacher when you can be like a second-rate version of your teacher when you could be a first-rate version of yourself? I think that's a lesson to be had there. 24. I have a lot of questions written out here. Blah blah blah. It's actually a really good question here. To get your license, are you expected to reproduce your teacher's style? Hmm. I think that the question has some loaded stuff in there. Like there's some presuppositions in there. So I want to be careful when I answer the question because yes and no. Like especially at the point when you're like like it also depends on the school too, right? Some schools are much more about like this is the way it needs to be done. It needs to sound like this, right? And then in other schools, there's a lot more freedom to say like yeah you can do that. That works as well. Like that's how my school is, and that's how my lineage has been too, right? It's more about expressing yourself and changing things and experimenting. The My teacher, I think, put it perfectly when he said our school is the school of self-expression. Other schools express themselves through the tradition. So I think that the question yours is yes and no. It just depends. Okay, going back to my question list here. What are some exercises I can do to develop familiarity with the unique scales and tuning systems used in shakuhachi music? Listen to a lot of players, not just modern but old players too. So you want to get a grasp of how people are playing today, how people played 50 years ago, how people played 100 years ago. And there's a fair bit of recording out there from 100 years ago. One of my favorite players, by the way, and it kind of shocks people, but I've been very consistent on this, I think, is Minamoto Unkai. So if you don't know his music, you can look him up. You can type him in YouTube. Not now, later. He has there's an album of his out on there. It used to be an LP. I think it's from like the 30s. He's a very, very interesting player. I think he's fantastic. I think he's very good. A lot of my students have heard him and said, like, I don't get it. I don't hear what you hear. You may like him, but I don't. And I think that's part of the tale or the tellings of a really great performer. You either love them or you hate them. They're really divisive in this sense. And Minamoto Unkai, I think, is one of those people. And I love his playing a lot. Now, I was thinking about this today, too. This is completely unrelated to shakuhachi. I want to tell you that what I think is the greatest Italian invention of all time. Forget Roma. Forget the poetry. Forget the architecture, the wine. No, it's this soda drink, the sparkling water, San Pellegrino, made with real Italian oranges. This is amazing. Italy's greatest invention, or of all time. I'm totally addicted to them. All right, so we did that. I don't really want to talk about improvising. Recommended pieces or exercises. Just join the membership. Yeah. So, what are some recommended pieces or exercises for a beginner or intermediate shakuhachi player to practice regularly? Join the membership. That's my answer for that one. Okay. How do I develop phrasing and expression in shakuhachi playing? What kind of exercises can help me understand the more emotional aspects of the music? Phrasing and expression in shakuhachi playing. Actually, I can tell you one that's really helpful, and this is actually one that comes from my viola teacher back when I was in middle school and high school. See, that's the sound of Italian oranges right there, and man, it's good. Not a sponsor, just like the company. One thing I think could really help here is singing your music. Now, I understand that not everybody is a opera singer and a trained vocalist that can get all of their sounds out perfectly and all this kind of stuff. But it's not important to be able to hit all the pitches perfectly. What's important is that you're singing the music and vocalizing it. So much like that throat tuning exercise that I showed you from Robert Dick, that's very, very similar to what I'm talking about here. Is just being able to sing through this music. and just saying the finger names, right? Like you saying tsure uri ure tsuro. That kind of sound will get you more familiar just with the sound of the flute, right? Like roll really does sound like roll. A roll, tsu, de, chi. Starts to get brighter. Hear the difference? Alright, so even just saying those out loud and then playing on the flute, like if you sing through the melody with playing or saying those like Rotsude Chi Di, it will have a very positive effect on your playing. So I think that will help with the phrasing and expression. And in turn, because the shakuhachi is naturally so colorful anyways, I think that the more emotional qualities of the piece will come out as well. That's a good question too. Okay. How do I clean and maintain the shakuhachi to ensure it stays in good condition for optimal sound? If it's a lacquered flute, just make sure you swab it with the tsuyutoshi, right? Make sure you just take out all the spit after you're done playing. Don't eat and then play. You don't want mold being built up into your flute. After you're done playing, put it in a plastic bag, blow hot air, seal it up, put it away. Keep it out of the windows and heating units. Should be good to go. Oh, okay. This is one related to that. What can I do if my shakuhachi starts to crack or develops a sour tone? So if it starts to crack, you definitely want to send it off to somebody to have it bound. So I don't know if I have anything that has like even any signs of cracking at all, but you can kind of see it. They start with like a little hairline crack, and so it looks like someone has placed the long hair on it, and it's just kind of starting to crack open. They're very easy to fix. It's just a couple bindings on it, and it's not that expensive to repair either. But you want to get that done right away. If the tone starts to, go bad, there might be a plethora of problems there. There used to be a way of making flutes where they would kind of shortcut it in order to make a flute that sounded really good really quickly. And basically they used the equivalent of plain plaster instead of like G paste and stuff like that on the inside of the flutes. And that G paste, the plain plaster and urushi don't mix, and it doesn't actually adhere to the bore of the flute, so it starts to crack and then the sound just goes bad. It could be the case that you have one of those. Another thing too is that you have an internal crack. An internal crack could also do something like that as well. Depends on the quality of urushi as well that they're using. If they're using poor urushi quality, that can have an effect on it. But typically, Japanese makers use Japanese urushi, so there shouldn't be an issue there. If you clog up the G too much, though, like that really thick tonoko powder paste, if you clog it up too much in one area, then that can also cause problems as well. How do I manage performance anxiety or nervousness before playing the shakuhachi in front of others? Since our in-house producer Linus is here, can we make a note to talk about this next time that we're together? Like how do we manage performance anxiety or nerves before playing? We should do like a lot more of this, because this is a question that appears all the time, and it seems people really struggle with this, and I do want to help them more with it, but I think that you and I need to sit down and talk a lot about it. So that would be one for us to add to the books to kind of brainstorm. Because you get, like, if you look online, you'll get like answers that are so not helpful at all, like go eat a banana. Oh yeah, beta blockers. Okay, so then what happens when that wears off? Eat 2 bananas. Okay, so now I have to eat 6 bananas before every single show? Like, no, I had a student once that was addicted to bananas, by the way. Violin player, very talented. She was addicted to bananas. How do temperature and humidity affect the shakuhachi, and what should I do to protect it in different conditions? Well, the temperature not as much is going to affect the shakuhachi as much as it's going to affect your own sound and breath. Sound moves faster through hot air and humid air. But if you have like these major temperature and humidity strikes, spikes in dips, that's what's going to cause your bamboo to crack. So be careful there. And again, the answer stays the same for this. It's keep it in the plastic bag, blow hot air into it, you'll be totally fine. And that's hot air from your mouth, not from like a hair dryer. Oh, here's one we haven't had before. How do I practice for ensemble playing with other traditional Japanese instruments like koto or shamisen? What should I focus on in these settings? Rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. This is the number one thing. If you're going to talk about what are the building blocks of music, it's rhythm and pitch, and I think to a very large extent to tone, but the absolute basis of music is rhythm. Because it doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful tone and the most beautiful pitch, if you don't have it at the right time, it's the wrong note. So you have to have the rhythm there. So if you're going to play contemporary music, you're going to play sangkyoku, you're going to play minyo, you're going to play anything that requires you to play with other people, and it's a rhythmically based piece, like has a strong sense of rhythm, use the metronome, use the metronome, use the metronome. Oh, and by the way, use the metronome. That being said, you will have to get off of the metronome at some point too, though. The metronome's a great tool, but you don't want to become dependent on it to where you can no longer play without it. So something like using the metronome and playing those tunes, and then walking in place. Walking in place is a great way to internalize rhythm. I wouldn't use tapping the foot so much because that's an extra musical thing. You know, you're not going to walk in place on stage. That's a little bit awkward. But it's a great way to internalize that rhythm. So that's what I would do. That's my strongest recommendation. I can't recommend it stronger than to say utilize your metronome. Okay, we have another question here. What can I do if I feel like I'm plateauing in my shakuhachi playing? How can I overcome that? So, I wonder if I think I have a sheet here. I want to show you guys a little bit on like how basically leveling up works. So like when you level up on the shakuhachi, it looks like this. Okay. So notice that you get like this massive spike, and then you get like a kind of a plateau that slowly sinks, right? And this is the point that you're waiting for. Okay, it's like the frustration zone, right? So once you start feeling like frustrated, like you're getting worse, the big spike up is coming. So that's where to be excited. Okay, and then the big spike happens, and then it just slowly goes down again. And then you get that frustration point, jump back up, frustration point, jump back up, so on and so forth. So this is how I've noticed it both with my students and myself, just in personal life of just practice and so on. So if you're having that point where you're feeling like you're plateauing, just keep pushing forward, keep doing the exercises that you're doing. There's no like magic like cure of like, oh, if I just do these like A, B, C, and D, I'm just going to become a massively better player. There are certain things that you can do that will help you with like of course, if you don't know an exercise and you learn a new exercise, yes, that's going to make you better. But it's not going to be this like massive push up in ability because you learn this one exercise. If that happens, it's a rarity. It's not a common thing that's going to be happening every single time you get a new exercise. So just keep that in mind as well. Let's see. There was another question here. Oh, Linus, what do you think about Christmas songs on the Shakuhachi? Big fan. We can go. There you go. A little bit of Jingle Bells. Maybe what we'll do is, if you have a request for a Christmas tune, since 'tis the season, let's go ahead and you can throw out what your favorite Christmas tune is. I'll look it up really quickly and see if I can sight read it for you. And we still have a bunch of questions here. Like another, wow, there's like 38 questions here. All right, I'll pick out some of them. I love questions like this, which is, how do I mentally prepare for Shakuhachi performances? Are there any specific relaxation or focus techniques that you can recommend before going on stage? And I want to provide like one of those CDs, and maybe this is something that the Taidu Studios can do. Listen to the sound of my voice. You hear confidence. Now say it with me. I am confident. I am great. Have you guys seen the video Jessica's Daily Affirmations? That's what you should watch. I don't have I don't have anything that I do to mentally prepare for performances. That would be. I wish I could be more serious about that question. I just don't. But you should watch Jessica's Daily Affirmations anyways, because that's a great video. It's a really, really great video. I can do everything good. Yeah. All right, let's see. What is this piece here? Let all mortal flesh keep silence. On the blacklist. Okay, I'll play a little bit of it. Something like that. I think that's the tune. There you go. Is that a Christmas song? I don't think so. All right. How can I warm up effectively before a Shakuhachi performance to ensure my tone is smooth? You need to play Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence. There you go. You can play that tune, and maybe your lips will stay silent when you play. It'll keep you nice and smooth tones. All right. Expression and musicality. Those are always hard questions to answer. Stage presence and audience connections. Those are also hard questions to answer too. I like to do a lot of speaking when I perform. So I like to engage with the audience that way. If you're not a public speaker, then don't do that. But I find it to be a lot more. It's easier to connect, and actually it calms me down. It makes it easier for me to just play, and also it makes it easier for me to connect with the audience members too. All right. Oh, how do I perform honkyoku pieces for a Western audience that may not be familiar with the cultural or historical context of Shakuhachi music? Explanation, explanation, explanation. Here's one that's, I think, this is what you can tell them. Okay, when you're playing Shakuhachi music, it's not like the music of the West, which is based on the heartbeat. It's music of the East, which is based on the breath. So invite people to breathe with you as you play the music. And then they can kind of get a sense of the pacing and so on. So when you have these kind of long phrases, deep breath, and then you have these faster places, then they can breathe along with you for those, and then they can really feel and experience the piece, right? That's what I would say. That's a very good one. Good question. Sorry, skimming through a few more of these. If you have any other questions about the live stream, or you have any questions about shakuhachi or music in general, please feel free to drop something into the live chat. We are giving away a new Yozan flute, this one right here that I've been using for this entire video. It'll be given away next week. All you have to do is join the membership, which is actually in this YouTube. You just hit the join button. First level 1 ticket, second level 2 tickets, third level 5 tickets, and the 10th level. The fourth level is 10 tickets. It is all decided by ChatGPT, so I don't even know who the winner is going to be until the day of the live stream, which will be next week at 8 a.m. So if you can't be there for the live stream, that's fine. You can watch the live stream later. It will be archived, and then just email me when you hear your name. Okay, I ship out the flute for free, by the way. You don't have to pay for any shipping. The only thing that you will have to cover is if your country has like a VAT or it has some sort of tariff or anything like that, you'd have to cover that yourself, but it's a free flute. Okay, back to questions. Questions for studio recording. Interesting. How can I prepare for a studio recording of shakuhachi, especially regarding microphone placement, room acoustics, and tone control? Oh boy, SM85, man, use the workhorse. The workhorse is great. It does everything. Condenser mics are fantastic. I also really like ribbon mics. Ribbon mics have a very unique, warm tone to them, and I think they work nicely for shakuhachi. As quiet of a room as possible. Don't overdo the reverb. Those are my quick recommendations. How do I adjust my playing techniques, like breath control, for recording? I'd have to want to ask this person what type of recordings are you doing. If it's just like solo honkyoku, then you're gonna want those breath sounds in there, like very soft. If you do like a condenser mic, they're gonna pick up every single detail of your breath. A dynamic mic or a ribbon mic won't. But this is actually an area where I think there's going to be a lot of different feelings on what is correct here, because from what I've understood of like Japanese mainstream recordings of shakuhachi music, like people who are going to be working for Sony or recording for any major label here, they don't like to hear the breath you breathing in when you play. But I, on the other hand, want that. For me, that's just a part of the music. So, for example, can you imagine sitting at a table with everybody, and then like when everybody decides to talk, they just open their mouth? The other day, I blah 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 blah. Oh, that's really interesting. And no one ever takes a breath to, signify that they're going to speak. They have that, the other day or whatever, and they start talking. Like that breath is just so important to, it's a call to listen, So I can play a little bit of Sakura Sakura for you. There you go. Sakura Sakura for you. And by the way, it's actually just called Sakura. I know that like the title is like it's like the lyrics they repeat that phrase twice. How do I self-consciousness in the studio. Oh, I can give you an advice for studio. Never play anything unless the mic is hot in recording. A lot of times the best things happen when the mic's not running. Okay. Post-performance reflection. Okay. Post-performance, there's a couple questions here, like reflecting on playing and how to improve and all this kind of stuff. Self-evaluation. Actually, this performance fatigue is really interesting. This is actually one I probably want to talk about. Okay, so let's just talk about like reflecting on playing for a second. So one thing I think would be really helpful here is to not immediately listen to your performance after you've done it. Let it settle, right? Wait a couple days. And I gave the same advice for practicing, right? When you do your practice and you decide you're going to record yourself that day, do not listen to the recording that day. It won't help you, right? You'll be so overcritical that you won't even be able, and you'll stress you out. Then you'll try to redo the recording. And you know, you could be like in self-denial, like that's not what I played, man. I didn't play that. And then you record yourself again, and it gets slightly better. Give yourself a day, at least, to let it all settle, and then most performances have at night, so I give yourself 2 days, and then listen back to the recording to make improvements and stuff like that. So that would be my first advice there. Now the second question here is really interesting. And it says, how do I handle post-performance fatigue? Are there ways to recover physically and mentally after a demanding shakuhachi performance? And man, I feel you. I feel this question so hard, because when I have really big concert days, like when it's an hour-and-a-half long concert, especially if I'm using the big flute, or like when I did my CDs and I played all those pieces like from back to back, the next day I slept, man. It's just so tired. And so the thing is, you have to take the day off, right? That's a place you don't play the flute. You did a really big event, you need to have a day off. It's okay not to play a day, right? Especially when you have a performance the previous day. Oh, man, these are really good questions. I think they're really good questions because they're also questions that like I need to remind myself of too. What are some effective ways to recharge creativity after a performance or performances to avoid burnout, especially if I perform regularly? I think a lot of musicians have that question. Yeah. For me personally, it's to gear my focus on other things. So if I know I'm having like a really performance heavy month or year or whatever it may be, week, you have to prepare for it mentally prior to. And so this year, from, let's see, late August to just like last week, I had performances, like 1 or 2 performances every single week. And inside that too, I also had the Shakuhachi festival and so on. So it was been a very, very crazy and like second half of the year. And now I'm finally in this sort of post-performance fatigue of 6 months, basically, or September, because August, September, October, November, December, so 5 months, right? 5 months of really intense performing and doing a bunch of things. So now I'm in that post-performance fatigue of this session. And for me, I told myself after this last recording that I did, this is the last one I'm doing for the year, and I'm giving myself 2 weeks off. So on December 23rd, there's no lessons, there's no performances, there's nothing. I'm just hanging out at home, playing with my daughters, and we're going to go to the parks and go to, maybe we'll go to Lego World or something, but do other things, right? Because I actually felt that way probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I was traveling all over the place. 1 week I was in Taiwan, and then I was in Japan, and then I was in England, and then I was in Las Vegas, and then I was in Kenyon College, and then I was over in California doing recordings. I mean, it was crazy, and I really started getting sick of living out of a suitcase. And I mean, I was gone every other week. And so another thing too that happened there is I was canceling a lot of lessons. This was in a different time in my life where I had a lot more lessons in person. So moving to the online part of it was not really an option for many of those people. And so, it could cause strains in other places where they're like, oh, well, I still want that lesson, so can we reschedule it? And so you end up teaching like 12 hours a day on like Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then you leave Friday to do a weekend performance somewhere, and then you come back. So, yeah. That's such a hard one. Linus, if you're still here on this one, maybe we should talk about that kind of a work-life balance sort of thing. because I don't think I would be able to do that level of intense performing with having students at the same time. If I was going to do the traveling performer, like I'm going to go to all these different countries, all these different states and stuff consistently like that, I could probably see once every 3 weeks doing something like that, maybe once every 2 weeks, if it's like a continental event. But intercontinental stuff, I don't want to see. And this is okay. We're getting deep now. I don't want to miss the most valuable years of my life raising my children and being there to see all of those really cool events, right? Those the first steps, the first trying a different food. Like, you know how exciting it is to watch a baby eat a lemon for the first time? Like, that stuff's amazing, okay? I don't want to miss that. But at the same time, you don't want to miss playing on Carnegie Hall. So you have to really balance it out. And that might be something we should talk about for people who want to have a performance career. I've heard really sad stories from people who are professional musicians who are like, look, you have to choose from spending the last moments with your dying parent, or you're going to do this big concerto that's going to change your life. So, look, I actually know someone personally who had to go through that, who performed a concerto, and they said, look, either you're going to do this concerto, or it's like you have a contract that you sign or whatever. It's like, and if you don't do it, X, Y, and Z are going to happen, and it's not good, right? And so they have to do the performance, and this person who did the performance got the news in the middle of playing the concerto that their father passed away. That's tough, right? And that's real life stuff of like work balance. And the thing is what's the old saying? The show must go on. The show must go on. You don't have a choice, because if you dip out on that, it's not good, not good at all. All right, so if you haven't liked this video yet, come on, like the video. You're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. What, you wanna win a free flute too? Well, I can't say it's exactly free, but you can get a chance to win it if you join the membership. So if you hit that join button right below, you have a couple options. The first level gives you 1 ticket for the raffle. The second level gives you 2 tickets for the raffle. The third level gives you 5 tickets, and the fourth level gives you 10 tickets for the level. So sign up for the membership. We're giving away the flute next week. The live stream is at 8 a.m. It's our Christmas special, the Christmas special tune. And so, yeah, come on in and hang out with us and see who wins the flute. It should be a good time. Okay, Christmas tunes. Let's see. What is my favorite Christmas tune? I think I like this one. This is one of my favorites. I'll play it first, and then we'll see how fast you get it. I'm sure you guys will get it super quick. I like it, and also in the higher octave too, it sounds really nice as well. There you go. That's my favorite Christmas tune. O come, Emmanuel. Okay, so that was a lot of questions today. That was a lot of stuff to go over. I'm really thankful for that. So I think we're at, what, now 74-minute mark? what is it, 4 o'clock now? Cool. Well, we went a little bit longer than normal, which I'm happy with. An hour and 15 minutes, it seems. I want to open it up for a few more questions before I call it a day. And if you have any questions that are related to shakuhachi, related to music in general, whether it be Western music or Eastern music and whatnot, now's your chance to ask a question. Next week, we also will not be having our in-house studio guest, in-house producer. He will be out also still doing his Santa gig, so you just have me solo. It's not as dynamic. He really adds so much to the live stream. It really makes it so much more interesting. It fills those blank spaces, you know, the moments of silence. And he always has really good insights too. Lots of really good follow-up questions about certain topics that I think really add a level of depth to it that make these live streams so valuable for people who are really wanting to learn more about shakuhachi or people who are wanting to develop their skills on it. So really appreciate him. As one final announcement here as well for live stream stuff. So again, we have it next week, right? So we'll have that. Let me pull up the calendar really quickly. So next week, the 23rd, we have a live stream. The 30th, we will not have a live stream. We will continue live streams on the 6th of January, and then that will go 6, 13, 20, 27. There might be a live stream on the 3rd. And again, I'm speaking in Japan times here, so it might be different for you. It will be the Sundays, not the Mondays. But we are planning another trip to America on the 31st of January. We'll be there for about a month and a half. So we got some stuff going on, some little bit of touring and a little bit of fun to have, some concerts. So if you're in the Midwest area, keep your eyes and ears peeled. So yes. Also, if you are interested in winning a flute made by the wonderful maker Yozan Hikichi, this is one of his student model flutes, and we are giving this one away next week. Okay, again, next week, 8 a.m. Join the membership, which is right below this video. Just hit the join button. There are 4 options there. There is the beginner's level, the Shoden Trial, it gives you 1 ticket towards a raffle. The Shoden Lesson Series gives you 2 tickets towards the raffle. The Chuden Lesson Series gives you 5, and the Okuden Series gives you 10. So sign up and see if you win. SYD, please come visit Indonesia as well, Sean. Wonderful place for foodies and some diverse culture. Indonesia definitely has some seriously good food, and it is on my list. So perhaps we should talk sometime about having me come out there and do a couple concerts, because I so long to travel Southeast Asia and eat so many foods. So many foods. Another place I heard that was like a really cool foodie place was Laos. I heard that Laos was like some seriously good eats there. It's such good food, apparently, that Gordon Ramsay put it on his like top 10 list of places to go to eat. Actually, I think it's on his top 3. And the power of the Vietnamese banh mi, so good. Actually, our in-house producer Linus used to live in Vietnam, and he could tell you, man, the banh mi is up there with one of the best sandwiches of all time. And that's coming from an American, okay? They're amazingly, impressively good. Thailand, Laos are both impressively culinary. Yes, they are. I've heard good things about Thailand too. What is that called? Pad Thai, of course. Everybody knows Pad Thai, right? But I'm not talking like the American Pad Thai. Like I'm talking about like the actual Thai Pad Thai. That's some really good food. Oh, I'm getting hungry. It's also getting close to the time where I have to start making dinner anyways. But shakuhachi and food go together. Shakuhachi and tea go together. Shakuhachi pretty much goes again with everything. So you can make it part of your life. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for joining the live stream. Thank you for being here. I always appreciate your support. Thank you so much for the questions. Never be afraid to leave a super chat, by the way. And I will see you guys next week as for when we give away the flute. If you're not signed up for the membership, join the membership. If you haven't liked this video, like this video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, hit the bell. notification, all, you know, the list of things that YouTube keeps adding to make it more difficult for people to get your videos seen. Anyways, thanks for watching. As always, I'll see you guys next week.